Sorry, I'm waving at my family at the same time.
Oh, we're live. Jay waving to his fans before the
my family in Australia.
Oh
man.
dear. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 20 of the No Punches Pulled podcast. I know on 19 we said we're done for the year, but a week was long enough. I think we've served our time. We were meant to be live for Puma Martinez versus Kazuto Ioka, the rematch today, but unfortunately that fell off. So we've decided to come on and we'll preview Opetaia versus Nyika next week. Next week's episode will be dedicated to the boxer card, headlined by Callum Simpson, Caroline Dubois, and the co-main event as well. First off, Liam, Jay, good Christmas, nice break.
Yeah, not bad. I've put about 3 stone on. Slept more than I've ever slept in my life. Yeah, it's been nice, man. Sorry.
That's all good, mate. Yeah, not bad. Good to spend a bit of time with family. But I think we said, didn't we, by about the 27th, 28th, we were saying it's a shame we haven't, when we got some boxing to talk about again, I think we were all ready to get stuck back in. Enough time with the family, enough time on the chocolate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enough. I'm done. I can't watch another Harry Potter for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
That's you lined up for the rest of the day, isn't it, mate? You've got 4 more to go. Mate.
I've done all the Home Alones, all the Harry Potters. Lord of the Rings, done them all.
I know. You do get
ready for fights.
Look, it could be worse. You could be a fight fan living in Japan in December.
Oh God, yeah, no luck whatsoever.
That's a stinker of a month.
Absolutely everything. To be fair, I feel bad being a fight fan from the UK. To be honest with you, but I mean, we've lost the New A versus Goodman. It is rescheduled. Fair enough, but we lost. Martinez Ioka, that was going to be a great rematch taking place this morning. But look, hopefully that'll be rescheduled too. Satsumi did beat Rene Alvarado in the main event. He's now 6-0, 3 knockouts. Alvarado slips to 2-7 in his last 9, so his time might be done. Super Feather, that was an eliminator for the WBA as well. But looking on to next week, a week tomorrow is going to be, I think it's a week. It is a week tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Opetaia against David Nyika. So it was meant to be Sin Cara, wasn't it? Is IBF mandatory, first of all. He's out. Potentially a better fight here. I think commercially, the Tasman and the organisers, Eddie Hearn, Spencer Brown, everyone who's involved with the card. And I don't necessarily mean by the stylistic matchup, but you've now got the Australia versus New Zealand angle on this.
It's more of a narrative, isn't there?
There's more of a narrative on it. Yeah, it's probably going to draw. I mean, it's sold out already. I heard that the card was sold out. Mick Francis, I think, announced that one. So you've got Nyika coming in. His record is fantastic. Jay's 10-0, 9 wins by knockout. He looks the part. I saw him next to Opetaia at the press conference. They did. They've sparred a lot of rounds together, actually. I heard them both say, and I think David Nyika's kind of, I don't know if any of you saw it. He's got these sticky notes that he puts on with dates, and he said, "I will knock out Jai Opetaia." He's kind of manifested it. So you've got that little thing. It gets you interested a little bit when you hear these kind of things. He looks the part. He's 6'6". He's an absolute unit for a cruiserweight. I know most cruiserweights are, but 6'6" is definitely heavyweight size. Opetaia, he's on a bit of a run lately. He's leaning towards this Zurdo Ramirez fight, isn't he? Do either of you, I mean, I'll come to both of you for thoughts on the fight, but do either of you see any threat to Jai Opetaia here in the matchup?
I mean, as Tunde says, as the great, Tunde Jai says, believe it, achieve it, become it. Lion bars in the fridge. No, absolutely none. I don't believe they would have taken a risky fight. No disrespect to his opponent. I think they would have rather scrapped it to mess up the plans that they've got for Opetaia in 2025. They've got some massive plans for him. There's been rumours of Usyk coming back down to cruiserweight. Unification matchups, as you said. There's the Zurdo Ramirez fights on the horizon, ready to be made. There's massive paydays. I do not believe. I mean, I know every fight's a risk, and I'm not dismissing his chances. I'm just giving him a very, 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 very small, slim chance of causing an upset. I believe he has a puncher's chance, and I know we say that, and it's very cliche, and it's the default answer when we believe someone's overmatched. I believe it's very fitting for this matchup. I think that he does have a chance, as any world-level cruiserweight has. I think it's too much too soon. Opetaia is the best in the division, or one of two best in the division. And I just think it's possibly come a little bit too soon for him.
Yeah.
Look, echo what Jay said. I mean, the level of opposition that Nyika's been in with his best opponent was on the first Fury Usyk card. And the thing that stood out for me that night was his power. Like, this guy hits, and he hits through the target. But there's a difference doing that against guys that have been around the block and know how to get free fights, and then going up to Opetaia's level. And I've made the bold claim before that I think Opetaia unifies down here and then moves up to heavyweight and does the same. And I stand by that claim. I know you two don't necessarily agree with it at the moment, but for me, Opetaia in the next 2 to 3 years will move up to heavyweight and unify at heavyweight as well. So yes, it's a risk. It's a last minute opponent. It's an opponent he's sparred with, so there's familiarity there. I know sparring, but they know how each other maneuvers around the ring. They know each other. They were in and around amateur gyms together as well, so there's familiarity there. But this is set up as a showcase. The whole point of Opetaia having this fight down under is a showcase. Yes, it's a mandatory, but it's a showcase, and that's what we'll do. If it goes past 6-7 rounds, it's similar to Jack Massey in terms of the levels between them, if that makes sense. We said Jack Massey shouldn't last much past round 7 or 8. I think he got pulled out after round 8, didn't he, by Joe Gallagher in the end? So
there or thereabouts,
yeah, we were kind of spot on. This is similar. If anything, Nyika shouldn't go past 4 or 5, but if he's going into 8, 9, 10, then Jai's not doing the job we expect him to do, and that's the reality of it.
Big target, isn't it? 6'6" as well.
Yeah, I think the only way he gets this fight past, as Liam says, 4 to 6 rounds is if he goes in there and looks to spoil and just looks for maybe a hook on the break. If he tries to tie Jai up, use his size as an advantage in terms of getting hold of him rather than boxing at range. Because I think if he tries to box at range, he'll just get picked off. Opetaia's a really good boxer. His footwork's pretty good as well. He'll be able to manipulate the angles. He'll get past the range if he starts to try pour out a jab and thinks he can keep him at the end of that. I think Jai's too big and too clever. I think he'll manipulate that fairly easy and just whack him out of there. I think his only chance for Nyika is to maybe spoil, jab and grab, and just look to get through rounds and maybe hope that Jai tires down the stretch. I don't think he will, and I don't think he has enough to make that a possibility. Yeah. But for me, I think that would be the only way we'd see a longer drawn out fight, is if he could spoil it somehow and get through rounds.
This is really interesting, and thanks as always, Ryan, long-term subscriber, and for tuning in. I didn't know this, so thanks for bringing it up, Ryan. He said Nyika looks stiff. I don't know how he medalled at the Olympics. Just while
wasn't aware he has.
I kind of pulled up. He's a 2-time gold medalist at the Commonwealth Games, 2014 Glasgow at light heavyweight, 2018 on the Gold Coast at heavyweight, and bronze medalist in Tokyo at heavyweight. So there is some pedigree there as well. But Ryan,
did you say Glasgow Commonwealth?
For Commonwealth 2014.
That'll have been, what's his name? Callum Johnson, didn't he medal?
Yeah, I'm sure Callum Johnson
did. Swifty Smith did as well. Sorry. Yeah,
but no, that's all right. That's really interesting though, because I watched a little bit of on him before I made my prediction, and he is stiff, definitely, Ryan, and that kind of plays to up where Opetaia's overhand left, that left overhand that sparked out Ellis Zorro and has caused damage to many other fighters as well. That's the shot, isn't it, that Jai would probably take him out of. But yeah, that's interesting. He's got some amateur pedigree. Fair play to him.
Yeah, he does. Sorry, mate. As we said many times, just because you got amateur pedigree doesn't necessarily mean it's going to transfer over to the pro ranks. And it's very difficult to say that all of a sudden this amateur pedigree is going to come out against Jai Opetaia. Like, it could do. And look, we could be sitting there eating our cornflakes with open mouths, in 10 days' time, wondering what the hell's happened. But the reality is Opetaia's up here. There's a way to go. He may get there when Opetaia moves on from the division, but right now Jai is the man, and this is a fight of convenience as opposed to a fight that Nyika deserves, I think is the way I'd...
Yeah, well, he hasn't beat anyone in the pros to deserve a shot at a world title.
No, and I mean, I've seen a similar example of an elite amateur sparring. No, not at that level, but
but he's a gold medalist, and look at his pro career. That just shows you
there is that chance. No, I'm going to give an example of an elite amateur turning pro and then sparring with a British champion, and I'm talking about handling the British champion every single time they sparred. I'm talking about Conor McGregor, Eddie Alvarez style, hands behind his back, bolo punching, alley shuffle. They boxed for the British title in the pros, and my brother got his ass kicked. And when I say got his ass kicked, I think he got knocked down 6 times against a kid that he'd regularly beaten up. You know, what people do in sparring is not necessarily anything like what they'll do in a fight. You know, they go in there to practice. Yeah. People don't realize you're in there to learn stuff. So, you know, you might take 10 times more shots than what you would ordinarily. And Nyika can't read anything into that. I think now that I've learned that he's a decent amateur pedigree, then that might be a way of him manipulating rounds a little bit easier. I just don't think he's got it at the top end. I think he will eventually get overawed and stopped, be that on his feet or knocked out. I think Jai, I know he hits hard, but I believe that's his main weapon. Jai's got power, he's got skill, he's got decent footwork, he's got high work rate, decent cardio. There's a lot. Unless we don't know about this kid yet, and this is going to be the time for him to step out of the shadows.
I'm more interested now. I'm more interested than I was before Ryan pointed that out. His nickname's the Nice Guy. I don't think he's going to beat Jai by being the nice guy on the 8th of January.
It never worked. It's not worked. That nice guy don't work, does it? Didn't work for Joseph Parker. Look at him now. I mean, he's still a nice guy, but he's boxing with a little bit more spite and
got more edge now, Parker, doesn't he?
He's got a little bit more edge. He's putting a little bit more spite into his routines, if you call it that, and you know he's manipulated himself a world title shot, which I think he's going to win. But obviously that's another conversation. Yeah,
definitely. We'll do a prediction show for that, possibly Friday this week or something like that. And on the undercard, Justice Hooney's back, Liam. We watched his last fight. It wasn't really up to much, was it? But you're a solid prospect.
Yeah, mate. I said on that watch along, the key now is activity. If there's a way to get him out on the 8th of January, get him out. And lo and behold, he's out again on the 8th of January. Look, in reality, a fight made at 3 weeks' notice is not going to be against a world beater. However, with what he's already come out as being the plans for him this year, which is to get him back over to Saudi, which is to get him picking up ranking trinkets, then I'm happy to see him out again. Another couple of round demolition job. Build up the hype, build up the show reel. And then, you know, Justice Hooney, Moses Atauma isn't a fight Moses will beat him, but isn't a fight I'd be that against seeing next year if it came to it in terms of where they're both at on their journeys. Like, you know, but yeah, look, we said, didn't we, me and you, Sam? Hooney, through injuries and through fighters pulling out, it had a really inactive 2024, and we were just happy to see him out on the card, weren't we, the other week? So now he's getting out again.
Yeah, it was what's the Irish guy headline? Conor Wallace.
Conor Wallace, sorry. Yeah. If he's out again on that Saudi card, say in March, the one they're talking about doing, then that wouldn't be such a bad thing. That looks like when they're targeting getting Moses out again. It might not be Moses, but even if they get him in against the top 15 guy, it's better than what he's doing at the moment.
I say run it with Moses, man. I like it, Liam. He's Kevin on the Saudi card. You know, he's decent, Justice Hooney is.
Yeah,
thanks for tuning in, my friend. Sorry, I think he's talking about Jai. I don't think it's a cherry pick just because Sin Cara's out. So I think that they've just commercially put this in for what's his face? Can't even think of his name now. David Nyika. I think they put him in just for the narrative, like Jay said, the angle of Australia versus New Zealand. It makes sense from that point of view, kind of thing.
It's a match of convenience, mate. That's what it is. It's a match. Yeah, you know.
It's the hardest. It's the easiest, hardest fight they could find.
Yes. Do
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It contradicts itself. It's the best of a bad bunch.
Undefeated, 90% knockout ratio. It ticks
a lot of the boxes, done it on paper, but you know, we know
that's all he does.
I think Choi's been a little bit facetious there, saying it's a cherry pick. It's not necessarily a cherry pick, but it's a fight that is sort of 80-20 stacked in Jai Opetaia's favour.
Yeah.
As we said, it's a potential banana skin, but it's a calculated risk that they're willing to take in the lead up to hopefully making the Ramirez fight early 2025.
Yeah, definitely. That will be
Listen, he'd be up there.
Ramirez would be blowing up David Nyika's phone after that. Let's make the unification.
And Nyika would be able to claim for a while that it's a knockout and shock of the year.
Well, yeah, true.
2025.
You've got
knockout shock of the month, mate. You might win January.
Yeah.
You never know.
Might win.
But no, look, going back to Justis Huni, we want to see him be competitive because he has the skill set and he has the boxing style to be a threat heavyweight to a certain level. Look, no one's saying he's going to get in there and beat Usyk and that top level, but that top level's starting to, go over the other side of the mountain and disappear. Justis Huni is 100% in the picture with your Moses Atalmis, with your Daniel Dubois, etc., for that next generation. We're not necessarily saying he's at world level yet, but at the start of 2024, did anyone realistically think Daniel Dubois was at the world level we've shown to be at the end of this year? Not necessarily. No. Jay's going to say yes, but the large majority of the boxing public probably didn't think he was.
I did. We were same page. I was
Justis Huni could be that guy come the end of 2025, depending on what happens with the belts, depending on what happens.
Look,
Parker beats Dubois. New Zealand against Australia world title fight between him and Huni, because Huni's in the top 15 with the IBF, is not far-fetched at all, realistically, for a homecoming. We know Parker wants to go back and fight down under. That's the sort of
by Alex. Thanks for tuning in, Alex. Much appreciated. He said Huni versus Cam will be great in a big card in Australia around the Ashes next year. So you got the whole England v Australia narrative there. Matchroom are floating a UK versus Oz 5v5. You know what? That's not that far-fetched because Australia have got a bit of a hotbed of fighters coming through at the minute. You've got Giant Sky as the world champions, if you want to call it that. But then you got Cambozas, you got Huni.
Paro.
Yeah, Paro. Yeah, they've got you can make a good UK versus Australia 5v5, to be fair.
Just going back to Huni, I mean, he might not be at that level yet, but everybody has that breakout performance. Everybody has that performance that establishes them within the ranks. Dubois, yes, was sort of fringe world level, and until he sort of absolutely decimated Anthony Joshua, that sort of moved him up in people's expectations. He obviously had that within him, but he'd had a couple of bad performances. Huni's not had that yet, but he will have that breakout performance, and he'll either have that in the lead up to the Otoma fight, or the Otoma fight could be that fight for him. For all we know, he comes and flatlines Moses. I don't see it happening myself. I just think Moses got a little bit more than him, but I think that fight's easily made, and we could see that fight in the next six months or so.
Yeah, definitely. I saw that, Alex, as well. Yeah, DAZN are making big moves in Australia, aren't they? They bought Foxtel. Liam, I've got a question for you. I think you told me that Justis Huni was injured for a large portion of he put it this way, right? He fought Kevin Lerena on the Joshua Ngannou card in Saudi on March, which is a good win. Kevin Lerena is a solid fighter. We know he is. Then he fought Troy Pilcher 4 months after that. It was coming in undefeated, fair enough. Then we watched him against Rabuti last time, 11-6. He's fighting Sean Potgieter, who's 10-1 in a 10 rounder this time out. Why has he gone backwards since the Kevin Lerena fight, do you think?
It's difficult to say, mate. I mean, Kevin Lerena victory looks even better now. He's the WBC Cruiserweight World Champion.
He beat Andrew Tabiti before that, who's a solid fighter as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think he got injured. Fights probably fell off. He was probably in line to get back on Saudi cards, and they didn't come off. So he's had to go back down. He's had to move back down a level. I think he's probably just said, I'd rather fight and be active than sit out and wait for an opportunity. It's not the best look on paper at all. And as I've already said, we don't want to see him knocking over match puddings forever. That's the last one we want to see. But we complain about fighters not being active enough. Like, let's make a comparison. Joe Parker hasn't fought since he beat Zhang in March, and now he's going in with Dubois, which will be near enough 12 months later. Would we have rather have seen Dubois in a fight in September or October? Yes, in a fight he would win quite handily, but would we rather have seen him fight and sit out nearly a year? For me, absolutely. Huni's similar. I'd rather see him have these fights, get a bit of boxing fitness in terms of fighting's different from training and sparring, etc., and sit out and wait for an opportunity. Then there's no excuses. So
I think
it's a shame level, but at least he's active. Too many fighters just sit out and wait.
it makes sense, but next time he needs a good fight after this one, if you get what I mean. Like
I think we'll have a good one, mate. He'll be on a Saudi card. He'll be back on the Saudi card.
Tread water. Grant Gill's joined it. Who won? The fight for Opetaia takes place in a week's time. So January the 8th for Jai Opetaia. Thanks for tuning in. Choiby said, not much going on in boxing events. Just looking forward to Morel Benavidez is going to be absolutely quality.
That's a great
that's the. Oh, well, yeah, it's better than a New Way versus Goodman because that's more of a mismatch on paper. That's the best fight that's coming up soon, in my opinion. Benavidez, Morel, that's quality. Morel's in that fight for sure. Looking forward to that one. But I guess the only other thing to cover on that card then before we move into what we want to see for next year. I say next year, it's probably about 11 and a half hours away. But Terra Moana is fighting on the card as well. Our good friend David Diamante's best mate. Did you watch him in Monaco? What did you think? I thought he put up a good fight against Jalilov in the Olympic quarters in Paris as well. If any of you watched that, I think he looks decent, to be honest with you. He's another one in that mix in the Australia heavyweight division's becoming a bit of or cruiserweights as well, if you want to call up Opetaia. It's becoming a bit of a hotbed, isn't it, for these guys?
Yeah, look, he's raw. He's had one professional fight. We're not all of a sudden going to say get him a world title fight. He's a world beater. We need to see him.
Five, but one since the Olympic. He was 4-0 as a pro.
We're not going to all of a sudden say he's ready for bigger fights. I mean, if he's moved along nicely, I can see a Moses Itauma kind of progression happening with him. That's the way he needs to go. There's no point sitting around now and taking on journeymen that you probably wouldn't pay as sparring partners. By the end of 2025, you want him on the fringe of world level, so he needs to be moved along nicely, but it's difficult to judge with what he's been in so far. He did look good in the Olympics, but again, amateur to professional, as we were saying with Opetaia's opponent, there's it's light and day. You can't really draw too much from that, so intrigued to see where he goes. And like you say, it's another piece in the jigsaw for Australian boxing at the moment. It's probably the strongest it's ever been, actually, when we reel off the fighters they've got.
It's stronger than it's ever been. I mean, we've very rarely had more than a couple, and that's no disrespect to that side of the world. But a lot of the Australian or Australasian boxers come this side,
wasn't it, for all them years?
Katsidas, Sam Solomon, those type of people.
Yes.
For a lot of years.
Was it Danny Green as well? Was it
Danny Green? Yeah. In fact, Danny Green and Sam Solomon boxed not that long ago, to be fair. But they always, other than Danny Green, a lot of them made their name stateside and then they would go back home. Now they're making the name over there. They're having big fights over there. They're filling out, is it the Marvel Arena and such? I think MMA and some of the UFC stars have helped with Australian sort of combat sports being taken a little bit more seriously. Sorry, just going back to what we were talking about, progression. I think the sport's changed now. The way that fans view the sport, I don't think we're going to see fighters get to 25, 30 and before they're tested. I don't think fans allow that anymore. I think the patience threshold is less than what it was. I think people have an expectation now. We live in a society now, don't we, where, my kid's iPad screen breaks, for example. They just want a new one. We live in a disposable era now where you want something, you want it now. And it's the same. Fighters used to go through, they'd have 5, not behind closed doors as such, but on smaller halls. I'll use Josh Warrington as an example. I've seen him box 20 times, right? I bet 15 of those have been in places like Huddersfield, Sports Centre, leisure centres, the small venues in Sheffield, small hall shows. Even the small hall shows now are not small hall shows. They're in smaller venues, but the likes of GBM, the Sauerlands are putting on 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 people in a venue, and they're the small hall shows. And a lot of these are televised now, whether it's streamed on YouTube or on their own platform or DAZN or Sky or TNT, etc. So I don't think we're going to see, I think the days of 25, 30 and before the test is gone. I think they'll get 5 to 10 fights like Moses Itauma. Moses Itauma''s gone past the point of no return now. He's gone through the turnstile.
You can't go back.
You go through a turnstile, you can't go back through it. It locks. So it's like they've pushed him out there and gone, right, sink or swim now. I think the last one was Fabio Wardley. I think Fabio Wardley had lesser fights, didn't he? Up to about 12, 13. What's he at now? It's about 17, 18 fights or something like that.
18-0-1, yeah.
18-0-1. But I think 10 of those fights could be seen as lower level. I don't think we're going to allow that anymore. That's us. But I don't think fans allow that. So I think the game's evolved. I think the come-up's going to be shorter, quicker. We're going to see people.
It's Riyadh season as well, isn't it? Like, there's that many good fights being made now because of Riyadh season, and even the likes of, we just spoke about it, Morel versus Benavidez. Even PBC and other people outside of the Riyadh season bubble are having to make better fights because, like you say, Jay, the demand of the fans, the fans aren't going to take.
You can't feed them shit anymore. And I'm not saying we've been fed shit before, but people were. I'm not going to say this without patronising people, but I feel that the masses that watch the sport were less educated than they are now. And that's because there's more eyeballs on the sport. There's more big fights being made. There's a lot more shows. There's a lot more behind the scenes. So people know more about the sport now. So you can't go away and do 20 fights and no one know about it and fight bin men. And you might get away with that 3 or 4 times. And then people expect you to fight somebody, either another prospect or somebody better than the person you fought before. I think we're not gonna see records where the first 20 fights they've got a combined winning record of 7 with 500 losses. I don't think we're gonna, because people just won't stand for it anymore. They're like, look at Johnny Fisher.
Too many good fights going on elsewhere.
And I think now we can afford to not lose prospects, but not be so worried about us. Promoters have got the big fights. They know they can be made because of the Riyadh money floating around. So they don't have to worry about prospects guarding a zero. If they're a good fighter and people want to watch them, they'll watch them irrespective of. I'm not saying they can have 10 consecutive losses and people are still going to want to buy pay-per-views. But what I'm saying is people get invested. People get invested now and they want to see the person they're invested in good fights. They don't want to see him knocking over tin cans. They'll watch that for a certain amount of time before they want to see proper fights. So I believe that we're going to see him in a big fight within his next 2 or 3 fights, I think.
Yeah, it's been interesting this year, Jay. I'll come to my point in a second. Alex is joining us from Down Under, so thanks for that, Alex. Much appreciated.
Yes, Alex.
And DAZN will help spread the sport and also if they do it properly. That was the one I was thinking of, Anthony Mundine. Remember him? He said there's a huge
Anthony Mundine. But I think he might have boxed Solomon.
Yeah.
The only reason I say that
was he not a rugby league player as well, like Volk was or something? I'm sure he switched sport to boxing.
So I did a write-up, like a commentary at work, and that I think it was Monday. It was either Mundine and Solomon or Green and Solomon, someone like that.
Oh, they all fought each other, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, they had to. There were no one else to fight, really, were there? Costas you really was the main guy. Is the main guy.
My point was going to be, when you're talking about prospects, look at what Frank's done this year, and Moses is his biggest success probably, but. And then obviously Eddie's been taking a lot of stick, hasn't he, for his prospects getting beat and so on and so forth. But then you look
deservedly so, yeah.
Yeah, deservedly so, definitely. Frank's matched his guys great, but the one that sticks out on the top of my head is Mark Chamberlain. He lost at Wembley, didn't he, to Padley in a fight that he was expected to win, but it was a competitive fight. That's where, for me, Frank has excelled this year. That's why he's promoter of the year. He's
Turkey's not mentioned him since.
Yeah.
Can I say something about
look at him?
The elephant in the room that I think we all need to address. If he went over to Saudi and, laboured to a 10-round decision victory against Gavin Gwynn back in February, March time, he would have been back fighting on the York Hall Friday night TNT cards, without a doubt. That's the elephant in the room. Mark Chamberlain was put on this acceleration course as Turkey's favourite because of what he done to Gavin Gwynn and then what he done to the overmatched African fighter. But the reality is all he needed to do was go 10 rounds in one of those 2 fights and he's back at York Hall. That's no disrespect to Mark Chamberlain, but that's where he's at. He's probably just about on the cusp of British level. But if you were to put him in there with Noakes, if you put him in there with Noakes would stop him inside 4 or 5 rounds for me. I thought that anyway before the Wembley fight, but I think that even more. Mark Chamberlain was a product of getting a stoppage as opposed to his talent. That's might be controversial, but that's the reality of it.
No. I think you bang on there. He says he was a rugby league player. Alex says, but he's Aboriginal as well, so divisive in Australia. So I guess we'll move on to the fights you want to see then in 2025, boys. We'll start in the heavyweight division, and then we'll work our way down to, I think, Superfly. We agreed to leave it there at. So in the heavyweight division, I mean, I'll come to both of you individually, but we can just make a few. We'll play matchmakers for a minute, the three of us together. What, are we going to assume that Usyk's going to carry on fighting at this point? Do we think he's going to carry on? Do we not think he's going to carry on?
I don't. I think he's had enough. He's had enough. He's got nothing else to prove.
Should we go outside of Usyk then at heavyweight?
I was going to say, if we're going outside Usyk, I know what I want to see at heavyweight this year.
So go on then, Liam. We'll start with you because
he's going to say it. He's going to say it. I know he is.
He's going to say Fury AJ.
He's going to.
No, I'm not. I'm going to say Joe Parker against the Talma once Parker beats Dubois.
Oh, that's a cracker for the IBF.
Yep, that's where I'm going, mate. Fury AJ.
To be fair, I like that fight, but to be fair, I think your boy deserves it more than the Talma. I think Fabio Wardley would deserve that fight more than the Talma. I get the narrative behind the Talma.
Who's Fabio going to fight, man? Because he's been.
Don't know, man. Because he seems to have been. I hadn't heard anything. I think he's going to be a father, so I think he's spending some time with his partner, and he's been in a couple of intense camps, hasn't he, over the last 12 months. He's probably taking some time off, enjoying the fruits of his labour.
By the way, Fabio and Moses are both trained by Ben Davison, aren't they?
Yeah, so they're not going to fight, are they?
No. I think it's going to be European title. Frank's talking about Portman Road. I mean, I don't think he'll get a Portman Road fight again this year. I think the club will put pay to that, unfortunately. But it looks like if they want to
surely he could fill it out. They'll sell 1,500 tickets, won't they?
Nothing to do with tickets, mate. But no, I think he's going to get the European title. I think British and Commonwealth, he'll leave to one side for the next lot coming through, and he'll move towards European. But in terms of fight, Parker against the Talma.
Yeah, great fight. Is it vacant, the European heavyweight? Want Caballero?
The last circular from the European board didn't mention what was going on with the heavyweight champ. It sort of said the belt is whatever. I think it was held by Caballero, wasn't it? But I think Caballero has to vacate it, so it may well be.
Okay. Great fight.
That's a shout. WBA regular by Alex Wardley. Someone's going to get that Pulev fight, aren't they? Going to pay him a stack of money that he's going to be able to not refuse. I'm still convinced they're going to get it for Moses.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Moses is likely to get it.
I'd like to see Martin Bakole and Zhilei Zhang.
Ooh, that'd be the winner of Ajagba and Bakole has to fight the win. I mean, this is not going to happen because that's a WBC final eliminator. Caballero and Zhang, and Bakole and Ajagba is going to be an IBF final eliminator. But Bakole, whoever wins that deserves a shot at the IBF. To be fair, because Bakole was ducked by Cab. I know
they've all ducked him, haven't they? Let's be
honest. I like Billy. I'm not biased towards him, but they did duck Martin Bakole, both of them, Caballero and Zhang. At the end of the day, they were top of the IBF. They ducked him probably because they could fight each other for the WBC #1 spot, which makes sense as well. But Bakole is avoided. There's no word about it. So I'd like to see Bakole in a big fight. Jay, I completely agree with that. Bakole against Dubois would be an absolutely cracker as well. If Dubois got through Parker, I'd love to see that stylistically.
Just bear with me a sec. I've got
we won't talk about Bakole and Dubois any more than Dog didn't like it.
So there is a European heavyweight champion, mate. It is this guy, Lebuton Johan. He is a Kosovanian fighter. He's from Kosovo. He won the vacant belt at the end of November. So they have moved on from Caballero.
It's like a zoo.
20-0-1. He doesn't have the best record in the world, so that could be the move they go down for Wardley.
Well, yeah.
I mean, actually, just looking at this guy's record, the first time he fought a 12-rounder was for the European title. He'd literally had a run of 6-8 rounders before then. So that's the level that the European title's at heavyweight.
Yeah, the European heavyweight scene doesn't seem to be thriving too much, does it? No. So there's a couple of good. Just before we move.
Sorry, can I just put a caveat? Fight I want to see personally. I want to see Dave Allen, Johnny Fisher too.
Yeah, we'll get that. I think we'll get that the O2.
Straight away.
Yeah, they'll do the O2.
I think it'll headline the O2 at some stage.
They'll fill that 1,000,000%. They'll fill the O2 for that, and Dave deserves it as well. I can't move past heavyweight without talking about Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Not necessarily together, but what do we think? That Hearn said, I watched an interview yesterday that AJ is going to fight twice in 2025. He wants to return in May. That would probably fit Tyson Fury's schedule. Do we think Fury is going to carry on? AJ definitely is, but do we think Fury's going to carry on, or what do we think his next moves will be? I think Fury needs boxing for his mental state, all the rest of it.
I think he does, or did. I don't think he needs it as much now. You could see that. I don't think the loss didn't devastate him as much as I expected it to do. I don't think he's going to spiral. I don't think I think he's matured mentally over the past few years. I think he's evolved as a person over the past few years. I think he's done a lot of, soul searching, and he knows that without boxing, there's a massive hole. I can only equate it to me personally. I'm a recovered drug addict, so I know that when you stop one thing, there's a massive void, and people say you've got to fill that, and there's this pressure to fill that. And I think it heaped that pressure on him. So without boxing, he spiraled into this dark depression. I think he knows that now. So I think he's sort of dealt with that. So I think he's sort of been building up to win or lose to Usyk. I think the decision is the decision, regardless of what happened in the fight. I think Tyson Fury's, we might get another one out of him, but I think he's lost the love for the game. You could see that. You could see that. Even in the lead up, we all said he was different. We all put it down to him being zoned in and channeled in. I think he was half out the door anyway. I would love nothing better than Tyson Fury never to step in the ring again. What I don't want to see from Tyson Fury is what happened to Joshua against Dubois. I don't want to see him going in there not half-assed. I'm not saying he didn't prepare right, but he's not the fighter he was, and that was apparent. He's not as fast as he was. He's overweight. It was all wrong for me. I know I picked him to win, and I said he'd smash him, and I wanted him. I picked that with my heart. But ultimately, he's not good enough to beat Usyk, and Usyk's the man. And I'm a strong believer that if Tyson Fury can't be the man, then he's not interested in being in the game.
I think the second loss will hurt him more as well, because the cut and everything in the first fight.
He had no excuse.
This time he was locked away in Malta. He put everything into it, and he lost still, Liam. So that's probably different.
Look, Fury's last fantastic, outstanding performance was February 2020. So that's 5 years removed by the time he potentially fights again. I agree with Jay. His love's gone. You'd like to think the support network is better around him. He's got more fame and fortune than he ever could have imagined as well. He's got enough other avenues to go down. I don't think we see him again. That's the reality. In terms of AJ, if he's going to fight twice, Wilder, I say that feeling like I'm back to being 19 years old, but Wilder, that's probably the route to go down. If you're not going to get Fury, you're going to get Wilder. Or scramble for a vacant belt if Usyk does retire.
It would be silly, wouldn't it, really? Because
surely. Sorry, go on.
Go on, man. It's just that Eddie and AJ's team, and they're making the noise. It's Fury or Dubois. So if it was Wilder, it'd be like,
Well, that, I mean, for everything, the beating of his chest and the bad man that Anthony is, he has to fight Dubois. He could not live with himself if he didn't at least have another bash. And then at least if he gets beat, he's being beat. But if he doesn't, how can he look at himself in the mirror knowing that, he lost to somebody that he dismissed as not being anywhere near his level? Remember the build-up when it was a bit, Dubois sort of put it on him, didn't he? But the way he spoke to Dubois was like
dismissive.
Yeah, he was dismissive. Yeah,
dismissed
exactly.
him as a kid. Like, who are you to talk to me like that? I'll show you next week. And then we all know what happened in that fight.
Respect your elders kind of chat.
Sort of, yeah. It was alpha dogging him, wasn't he? It was alpha in him as though, I'm the man. Wait your turn, be respectful. And he got his ass handed to him. And I think that can't sit well for him. It can't, man. It can't.
Right. So here's a question then. So obviously, Dubois Park is in February. So if Joshua's coming back in May, it's unlikely he's going to get either Dubois or Parker if Parker
unless Dubois beats Parker early.
Yeah, of course, but who do you realistically see Joshua fighting in this comeback fight? Like we've just said, the European heavyweight.
Joshua ain't going to come back for no Jermaine Franklin and Helenius now.
He's not going to come back for Franklin Helenius type opponent.
It'll be Fury. It'll be Fury. Fury wants it.
Pulev 2.
Yeah, WBA regular 3 times.
I'm just thinking, I'm not saying I want to see that fight, and I think it'd be a joke, but I'm just thinking of an easy sell. I mean, if Joshua won the WBA regular belt, he could fill Wembley with casuals. He's a world champion again, and people would lap it up as they always do with Joshua's fights.
Yeah. I don't think AJ's cut from that cloth, to be fair. I don't think he'd want a WBA regular belt.
Do you know?
Personally, but Rambler's in the house.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Wardley or Atam could fight Guido. He just beat Makhmudov, didn't he? I think, he's with Top Rank.
Beat down Makhmudov, let's be honest. He absolutely
beat Makhmudov. He destroyed him. Right, boys, let's move away from heavyweight. Don't want to keep everybody all day long. Cruiserweight, there's not too much to cover with it, apart from we know what we want to see, really, providing Jai doesn't get monkey-eared on January the 8th, as Troy B said earlier.
We're calling it now, monkey-eared.
Yeah, it's a saying, isn't it? It has to be Jai and Zerdo, doesn't it? That's the fight we want to see.
Yeah.
There's no other fight to make in that division for me. That's the fight we all want to see, the unification match. We want to see who the man is, the heir apparent to Alexander Usyk. That because he's the last man to be the king of that division. It's been fragmented since then. So, yeah, I think that's the only fight any real boxing fan would want to see for me.
Outside of Beterbiev Bivol, we know they're rematching on February the 22nd. I'm assuming we're going to get a Beterbiev retirement after the rematch. Unless he loses. If he loses, there's 1-1 potential for a trilogy. But he's not going to be around for much longer either way. Is there any fights at light heavyweight that you can think of off the top of your head? I know domestically we want to see, we're getting one, aren't we, in Buatsi, Callum Smith, which is going to be a banger on that same card.
I'll go really low hanging fruit. We need to see something from Anthony Yard in the next 2 or 3 months. We have to see something. If not, just tie up your cane rows and swagger off into the sunset with a lion bar in your pocket. Because he's flattered to deceive for me for the last 5 years. He's flattered to deceive. He cannot dine out on pushing world champions. That he ain't going to want to go out like that. To be remembered for toughing it out against 2 world champions and ultimately getting stopped both times. I don't think he wants to go out like that, and I don't want to see him go out like that. I think he's more talented than that. I think Tunde Ajayi has held him back. And I'm not saying he's not a good trainer, and I just think he's got stale. I think Anthony Yard could benefit from being just another head in a gym, just another grafter in a gym somewhere like Ingles in Sheffield or Rotunda in Liverpool, somewhere where they've got a big stable and you are just one of a team of fighters and you get a bit of extra work when you're in a fight camp. I think the fact that they're all doing the Mayweather, yes, champ, Lions in the blah, 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 and shouting and screaming and hollering. The guy's not even, what's he won? Commonwealth title? Has he even won a British? I don't even think he's won a British, has he?
He lost when he fought for the British.
Right. So his highest accomplishments are being the Commonwealth champion and losing to world champions. For me, I think he's got a better skill set than that. I think he's got more potential than that. He just hasn't got time. And I want to see something from Anthony Yard. I want to see Anthony Yard in big fights. Callum Smith took his big fight from under his nose. Callum Smith's been sat on his couch for 18 bloody months. Mm-hmm. I'm exaggerating, but Callum Smith's had one fight. He's had one fight.
Fought Beterbiev last January, and then a 6-rounder, was it, in Birmingham?
He's had a 6-rounder, and then he's taken one of the biggest British boxing fights in that division that we could have seen in a long time. Everybody's wanted to see Yard versus Buatsi. They've talked about it since Buatsi turned over, for goodness sake.
Yeah, it's been linked to donkeys.
How long's Buatsi been a pro now? 8 years?
Since 2017.
Like 2017. So it's a long time, right? Callum Smith just swaggered in after one 6-rounder and took that fight from underneath his nose. And all we're seeing from Anthony Yard is social media posts and TalkSport interviews of him going back and forth with Simon Jordan. That, right. For me, put up or shut up, Anthony.
I'll give you 2 fights then at light heavyweight. One involves Anthony Yard. I'd like to see Anthony Yard against Conor Wallace, the Aussie that we watched the other week. I think that's a good fight. That's a good fight. And then the winner of Benavidez Morel against the winner of Buatsi and Smith. Ooh, whoever wins those 2 fights should fight each other, because that will probably be for. Morel and Benavidez is for the WBC interim. So chances are the full WBC belt is on Buatsi and Smith for the WBO interim. The full WBO could be on that. That could be whoever wins those 2 fights. That'd be a fantastic matchup.
Yeah, I really like both of them, Liam. Definitely. Yeah, Alex has echoed you there, Jay, with what you said about Yard. Super middle's interesting. Canelo Alvarez has just come off a win. Rambler there. When you move on to cruiserweight, who should back? Yeah, that's true. He's the WBC champion again now, isn't he?
God.
Badu Jack. So he could potentially fight the winner of Zurdo Opetaia, presuming we get that for undisputed honors. He was the champion in Emeritus, I think they call it, for the WBC, and he's not
fought since he beat Maccabi, has he?
Yeah, he's been winning.
Doesn't matter. Listen, Badu Jack lives in Dubai. Badu Jack's in the club. Badu Jack does what Badu Jack wants.
He's going to sell his WBC belt to
the highest bidder.
The highest bidder.
The highest bidder. Yeah, literally the highest bidder. So yeah, we watched Canelo against Berlanga, didn't we, in September? He's still got 3 of the 4 belts. The IBF belongs to William Skull, doesn't it? Now after I thought he beat Shiskin, to be honest with you. But anyway,
I can't wait to see that rematch, mate. That's my fight of the year.
Yeah. Who does Skull fight and who does Canelo fight more interestingly, I guess? Plan for Skull? Oh no, they're rematching, aren't they? They're rematching.
They're rematching.
Siskin. They are.
Look, Canelo fights whoever they can pluck out of the top 20. I expect a Canelo announcement in the next couple of weeks because Cinco de Mayo, they normally announce that in January time, so we're going to get some sort of an announcement.
Eubank's leveraging the Canelo fight in the Ben negotiations, isn't he?
What's he leveraging it with? His pen that he keeps losing. I mean, that's the reality. Yeah. Look, I actually have more interest. My fight I really want to see, and I know it's being ordered, is Mbili against Pacheco. That's the fight I want to see this year.
That's money. That's right.
Canelo will do what Canelo does, and he'll still keep hold of his belts because he's got all the governing bodies tied around his pinky, hasn't he? So forget that. Away from the Canelo sideshow, I would love to see Plant get the winner of the Skull Shifskin rematch because he deserves a world title shot again. But Pacheco against Mbili, that is a hell of a fight. That's the best at 168 this year.
Yeah, that's an absolutely cracking fight. I hope we do get to see that. Pacheco's fighting Nelson, isn't he, on January the 25th? And Billy, I don't think's got a fight scheduled.
Billy's not got anything announced.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've got Berlanga, who's going to be fighting in Puerto Rico as well, I think, at some point. Hopefully him and Caleb Plant can put their differences aside.
Yeah, that's the fight I want to see.
Yeah, that build up would be chaos, wouldn't it? Edgar Berlanga and Plant, because they've been going at it for a long time.
I'm pretty sure they were amateur teammates or around each other as amateurs. I've seen videos of them interacting as amateurs.
Didn't they
behind the scenes?
Fought the same Golden Gloves and stuff a couple of times as what Plant said. They're around the same team, yeah.
I have seen videos of them around each other as amateurs, and they just don't like each other. I'd like to see them fight. I'd also like to see the Charlos fight at 168.
Yeah, but they're just spiraling their careers out of control, aren't they? The Charlos at the minute.
Yeah.
Janabek, Hamza, Adames are fighting, obviously, on February the 22nd. What does Janabek do? Does he stay at 160, waiting for the winner of that? Does he move to 168 and get in that mix? What happens with...
Janabek's going to end up fighting Canelo, isn't he? Janabek will get the Canelo fight in September.
He could beat Canelo, you know.
He could beat Canelo. That's, we said it's going to be a fight that's going to underwhelm us with Canelo. Janabek, Canelo in September for Mexican Independence Day wouldn't surprise me. In terms of what we've got, Hamza Shiraz is fighting Adames.
Lara
Eubank, and we can all laugh at Eubank getting beaten by an old guy in a Zimmer frame. That will be highly amusing. But no, 160 is a transitional division at the moment, isn't he?
Wanker.
160 is really a transitional division, isn't it? Like, in terms of what's actually there at the very top, they're going to move up to 168. The outstanding star is Hamza Shiraz.
Yeah.
Adames is his toughest fight of his career by a mile, but you've got to believe the trajectory he's on, Hamza. He deals with Carlos Adames. It might go to points. He might not get him out of there. But that's the path he's on. And then what do you look at? I mean, according to BoxRec, Bruno Serace is the 6th best 160 in the world off of the back of what he done to Munguia. So he could end up getting a shot of some sort. I mean, he'll get splattered unless he can land that right hand again, but he'll get a shot.
Well, to be fair, Monkey has activated the rematch clause, hasn't he? So he'll probably deal with him in the rematch, and that'll just...
How about Shane Mosley against Ammo Williams as a fight to see? Mosley Jr., Ammo Williams.
God. I mean, yeah, but Mosley's shit. Sorry. Sugar Shane's kid.
I know, mate, but it's a shit division at the moment, trying to find anything out of it.
No, I agree.
Compare that to what's going on at 154. Now, this is an interesting conversation. Murtazaliev wiping out Zhu, defending his IBF belt. Terence Crawford's WBA champion. You got Fundora, I think, owns the other two belts. Errol Spence's name has been in the mix to come back, hasn't it? Who will Crawford fight next, do we think? Murtazaliev unification, I think I've heard has been rumoured. I think that would be a good fight, and it makes sense to pick up another belt.
Well, Crawford was rumoured to fight Fundora, then that fell off. He's been rumoured to fight Murtazaliev. I mean,
Turkey wanted him on February the 22nd, but he's injured.
Well, yeah, Terence Crawford, this is another conversation. Terence Crawford is unfortunately the type of champions we want to see fade away in terms of they only fight once a year. Spence, then no fight until he fought Madrimov. Now we're not going to see him fight probably until the middle of the year again, which means we're only seeing once in 2025. There's no doubt in his talent, Terence Crawford, but he's just not the pedigree of fighters that we want to see as champions in terms of their activity. Crawford, I think the more attractive fight would be seeing him in against Fundora, because they both will come. That will be Crawford, similar to what he's done against Spence, picking off
the 3-belter as well.
Yeah, 3-belter will be him picking off a fighter that comes forward on the front foot. Murtazaliev, for me, Crawford schools, because Murtazaliev has dynamite in his right hand, but he doesn't have a fundamental boxing skill set, so that's an easier fight. So the sexier fight is Fundora, but it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't see Crawford fight either of them. If you get what I mean, I don't know.
It wouldn't surprise me if we don't see Terence Crawford fight again. Period. Because the rumor has been if it's not Canelo, he'll retire. I don't know. What do you think about it all, Jay?
I'm getting bored of hearing about Crawford now. He's not doing much. I know he's had the Madrimov fight, and then he's not done anything since. I don't know, mate. I've tried not to think about Terence Crawford because I'm sick of hearing him or the negotiating the Canelo fight, and I saw this morning the Canelo fight's done and there's an announcement going to be made for May. I don't believe that's the case.
Who reported that?
It wasn't anybody of any great shakes. I saw it on X. No credible source. No, just pure rumours. But that's what we're living on at the moment, because Terence Crawford is not saying or doing much of anything. He's sitting ringside at a lot of fights, but he's not making any announcement. Don't look like he's in any form of camp. I don't believe he gets out of shape anyway. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I would not be surprised if Terence Crawford don't fight anyone this next year and just... he's 40. For God's sake, he's not far off 40.
Yeah, he's 38, 39, isn't he, or something? He's
pushing himself. He's a 135er, 140er. Do you know what I mean? He's fighting now at 154, burning on 160. He's taking unnecessary risks for me. So I don't know, brother, is the answer. There's no...
I don't think he's got ambitions of being undisputed at 154. He did it at 140. He did it at 147.
I think 147 was the... was the big one.
That was the pinnacle. Yeah, that was
the pinnacle.
Big. Yeah. He wants to get paid, is what he wants to get, and he wants to secure his legacy as the best of this era, which he can do if Canelo agrees to fight with him, really, because if he beats Canelo at 168, that would be a ridiculous win. So I get it from that point of view for him.
All right, so let's take Crawford out of the conversation then. He's either going to fight Canelo or we might not see him again. Murtazaliev, Virgil Ortiz Jr., that's a hell of a fight.
I do like it, yeah. I'm not 100% sure Ortiz gets through Madrimov.
I'm not sure he does.
I'm on the fence with that fight. That could steal the show on February the 22nd. I'm telling you, that's going to be a really good fight.
Oh, mate, the amount of people that are dismissing Madrimov because he lost to Crawford, but realistically, he lost by a round to Terence Crawford. I definitely only had him losing it by a round, 114, 112. He's a very, very good fighter that on a different night could have got the nod against Crawford. It's not the robbery that Eddie Hearn screamed afterwards, which still makes me chuckle. That clip came up on my socials the other day when he was doing his nut after the fight. But Madrimov is a real danger. But if Ortiz does get through Madrimov, him against Murtazaliev would be a hell of a fight. Equally,
I would.
Murtazaliev against Madrimov would be a great fight. That would be 2 punches. That would be a shootout. That would be who detonates their biggest right hand first. The only difference is Madrimov can box as well. So that's when
and that's why I'd probably lean Madrimov in the Ortiz fight, because Ortiz proved a lot against Bochuk. Don't get me wrong, he really gutted it out in a tough fight. But I think Madrimov's pedigree is, and Ryan said it as well. Ryan thinks Madrimov schools Ortiz, and wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. Big up, Mr. Jabbit Boxing. Happy New Year to yourself in Wales, my friend. Thank you very much for the support and tuning in. I look forward to many more interactions. Have a great evening, whatever you do tonight, Jabbit. 154, boys, is going to be interesting. But what I'm not overly interested in is all this politics at 147 with unifications, this, that, and the other. You got Stanionis, Barrios, Boots Ennis, and Brian Norman Jr., who hold the belts at the minute. We don't seem to be any closer to any unifications, do we, at 147? That's what Eddie and Boots want. It's so to say, Conor Benn's been linked with Barrios, hasn't he?
You're not getting unifications, you're not getting any movement at 147. We called 160 a transitional division. 147 is an absolute dormant division full of champions that don't want to take risks and fight each other. And what's there to fight the champions that isn't fellow champions isn't the greatest, if we're being honest, Jay, isn't it?
No. You know what? In the last 2 years, we've watched 147 go from the division to a division. It's just another division. 147 has been a standout division as long as I can remember. I'm going back to, Pernell Whitaker, Frankie Randall, people like that moving up and going through the ranks and then peaking at 147, the Pacquiaos, Mayweathers, De La Hoyas. It's always been massive. And then we had Crawford come up and do what he did. And Boots Ennis was meant to go on and take the mantle on. And then he's just started, gonna make a big fight, doesn't make a big fight, gonna make a big fight, doesn't make a big fight, makes a big fight, talks himself out of a big fight, makes another big fight, talks himself. It's like nobody wants to do anything in 147, and at the moment it's like a springboard division. People are getting a little bit of a name for themselves at 147 and then jumping up to 154 or doing something at 147 and moving back down to 140. It's sad for me because welterweight has always been one of the premier. We've had lightweight, middleweight, super middleweight, welterweight, and heavyweight. They're your main divisions.
They're your blue ribbons.
Now is blue ribbons. It's just another division now, and it's sad to see. We need somebody to step out of the shadows and take ownership of the division, which we thought Ennis was going to do, but he's flattering to deceive for me.
The only one thing I will say on it, if Ben against Barrios gets made, and it's been spoken about being made for the O2, isn't it? And I'd say it's likely to be made. If Conor Ben beats Barrios, which I'm not saying he does, if he does, I reckon then we'll see unifications, because Conor Ben isn't just now, after spending 2 years out of the ring for his reasons, isn't just going to lay dormant with a world title. No, mate.
No, he's not. He'll go for all the belts, won't he? But ultimately, it's wrong, man. It's so wrong. This NDA, I'm not going to go down it, but for me,
no. Well, let's not go down it. But yeah,
it shouldn't be allowed. But yeah, I get what you mean. He'll probably be the one to
want
the big fights.
Yeah, that's the rocket on someone's ass.
Ramblers asked, boys, who have you got the favourite? Crocker and Donovan, March the 1st.
Crocker
Donovan.
For me.
I'm leaning Lewis Crocker, but you two seem quite confident in your picks. One way, one the other. I'm leaning Lewis Crocker, but I'm not as confident in it as I was 6 months ago.
I'm really confident. I'm really confident. I was unimpressed with Donovan's last performance. I was more impressed with Crocker's. I think Paddy showed a few more holes in his game than what we've seen of Crocker. I'm not saying that they're not there in terms of Crocker's game. I just think I've seen a little bit more to give me more confidence in him.
Next time we interview Billy, I'll have to get Jay's Fight Talk on the panel. I don't want to upset him, Liam. Alex said, surprising how for 147 is Josh Taylor doesn't try and reinvent himself there. I really don't get Taylor's fascination with
I don't think he's big enough. I don't think he's big enough. I know he struggles at 140, but I think there's a reason why he's not made that jump. normally you will see people at 147 and walk round at 160. Josh Taylor walks round at 147, 152,
yeah.
154.
Did you sign with Matchroom yet, Taylor, or was it not?
Well, no, we had this big announcement coming, didn't we? And everyone said it was Josh Taylor, and we got that.
Matchroom were going to do a card on the 18th of January. But Tommy Fury and Darren Till was announced, so they opted to go against it because it would have clashed. And obviously now that's not happening. Josh Taylor was going to headline in Edinburgh or something.
Josh Taylor's career has gone completely off the rails. Losing to, even before he lost to Teo, that the damage that night of beating Jack Catterall in Glasgow has completely derailed his career. Because psychologically, it's clear that that's had an effect on him because of the way he fought. He's never
been right since.
He's not been right
since.
He was the man.
He was the
so
man.
What Josh Taylor retiring before he before he can tarnish a legacy anymore by getting beaten by guys he shouldn't be beaten by when he was in his prime, maybe his best move. And that's a shame to say because fantastic fighter, one of the best on these shores consistently for 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. But now I wouldn't there's very few people I make Josh Taylor a favourite against at this point. If he's going back
it's a crazy, I can't remember a fall off like Josh Taylor.
There's domestic fighters. I'm not going to name them, but there's domestic fighters that if they were matched up with Josh Taylor, I'd pick them to beat him.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I think we're on the same page. I'm with you.
Yeah, and that's a sad thing, and it's something. When he beat O'Hara Davis, because I picked O'Hara Davis to beat him, that's when I saw how good he was. I'd not really taken that much notice, and then from then he just went on and on and on. And at one point was the pound for pound number one, I believe, at one stage for a short amount of time. He was pound for pound number one. That Jack Catterall win was the worst thing that could have ever
changed
to him.
That night.
I think we wouldn't have seen the demise we'd have seen if he'd have just lost that fight. I think he'd have taken that better than getting gifted a win as such, because he lost that fight, and it did, Stevie Wonder could have judged that fight, or even Adelaide Bird could have judged that fight and given it to Jack Catterall. But he's never been right since. I don't know whether it's psychologically or he just became old overnight. Because I don't believe he's that young.
He was match tough like his whole way up. He was match tough, so you don't know if the
dealt
miles
with, but handled it. But like you say, that mileage catches up with you eventually, doesn't it? And
he's 33. He's 33 now, Josh Taylor. So look, his best days are probably behind him. But yeah, it's interesting though. Looking at all the rankings, he's ranked at 140 rather than 147. So clearly, his plan is to stay at 140.
Yeah, he'll have a good rank. He's still at 140. Afternoon, DJ Pat. Happy New Year, mate. Hope you're well over there in Sweden. Crocker all the way for DJ Pat. I don't think anyone said that, Rambler. To be fair, they're in different divisions. We're talking about Yard's fight with Lyndon Arthur, weren't we? When we're talking about Callum Smith.
I just said that I wanted to see Yard in a significant fight this year, possibly a gym change. We're not going to see that gym change. I think he will see his career out with Tunde. I think,
or a significant fight.
Oh yeah, he's too far in now. He's gone too far with all that.
It's a significant fight I want to see from Yard. Josh Taylor. Just going back to what we were initially talking about. Yeah, I think I would prefer to see him retire than lose to people that 5 years ago couldn't lace his boots. I don't see that from any fighter. That's similar to what I said about Tyson Fury. I'd like to see Tyson Fury quit rather than, become cannon fodder for up and coming. I don't believe that we would ever actually see that, but I just think we'd see him lose to someone that we wouldn't normally or ordinarily have even questioned it being close before the second Usyk loss. So, another one for me, Josh Taylor. I'm not happy, but I wouldn't be upset if we never saw him box again, just for himself more than me.
As we're at 140.
140, Teofimo's WBO champ. You've got Catterall Barboza fighting in the final eliminator. It was rumoured he's going to fight Subriel Matias, but I think that one fell up. No, Keyshawn's 135, I think.
I want to see him at 140, man. I think he's big enough.
He's fighting Baranchik, isn't he, for the WBO? 135.
I don't think he'll stick around at 135. I think he'll
move straight up.
What can WBO champions do? They can request to go straight in with champions in the division above.
Yeah, well, I hope not, because that would rob Catterall or Barboza of their deserved shot at the WBO title. But yeah,
what we always said about Jack Jack, listen, it's not going to happen for you, Jack. I'm telling you now, man. It's whatever will get in Jack Catterall's way will get in his way, unfortunately. I just think it's written that he's going to get shit and shafted at every single juncture. They will have to spoon feed him a world champion at home for him to get a world title. I think if he boxes anywhere outside of Manchester, he won't get a decision. I just think he's just one of those unlucky fighters that if it's not all in his favour, he gets the shit end of the stick. And I believe that some spanner will be thrown in the works after the Barbosa fight. And that's not me hating on Jack. I want him to win a world title. I just think that every time he gets close, something happens, and it just goes shitty for him.
Yeah, it does. Yes, our rate scarf actually, Rambler, definitely is awkward. 147. Alex has said back to this UK Aussie 5v5. If Catterall beats Barbosa, Teo vacates, he gets the WBO, could take on Paro or Cambosus and a big fight down under, definitely. Eddie Hearn to talk about Matthias was going up on that Puerto Rico card. Okay, March the 8th, I think, is it? The Balanga fight in Puerto Rico.
We've not seen Matthias. Oh, yes, we have. We've seen him once in
November, didn't he, in a knockover.
Yeah. Look, what do I want to see at 140? I want to see Adam Azim has the potential to be an IBO world champion after February the 1st for what the IBO belt is worth.
Have to see Dalton and Azim.
Pardon?
Have to see Dalton.
Yeah, it has to be Dalton Smith. It has to be Dalton.
Yeah, has to.
Dalton Smith will be European champion. Sod that he likes vacating belts, Azim, so throw that IBO belt away, and it has to be Azim Dalton Smith. On a world stage, Devin Heaney and Lopez, it's not going to happen. That's the fight I'd love to see on the world stage.
Yeah,
but it just doesn't happen, does it? But that's if somehow they can get Lopez Senior and Bill Haney away from it and just let the two boxers box. Again, I'm talking on a pipe dream here, then that's the only way we're going to see it. The dads will stop the fight happening. It won't be the two lads. It will be the dads.
Yeah, that's fair. That's probably arguably. I mean, you've got the WBC. I think is it Puello that's going to be the champion. Sandor Martin fighting for it or something like that. The WBC.
Sandor Martin's fighting for it. Yeah.
Who's obviously Teo's WBO? Who's WBA? Is it Valenzuela? He beat Pitbull Cruz, didn't he?
Valenzuela's WBA.
He's fighting on the Tank versus Thingy card if Roach, if that goes ahead.
If that goes ahead.
Who owns? IBF is Richardson Hitchens, isn't it? He just beat Paro. Yeah.
Hitchens has got the IBF.
Hitchens is tricky.
There's fights there to be made, but on a domestic front, it has to be Azim and Smith, and we have to see it by August, September. If we're sitting here in the autumn next year and it's not being made, it's never going to happen, is it?
Look, there's zero excuse for it. They're fighting within a week of each other. They're going to be on exactly the same schedule. January the 25th, February the what is it?
First.
The 25th and the 1st or something. Yeah, so look, they're on exactly the same fight times. There's no excuse not to make that for the European and IBO championships, potentially. That's what, I don't know if they could sanction that as a double, but whatever. Probably for the IBO would take priority over that, wouldn't it? Azim wouldn't care. He's already been European champion. But yeah, hopefully we see that. 135 then Jay's Fight Talk. Umanki, Sean Davis fighting Brenchik for the WBO. You got Tank there, he's fighting Lamont Roach. You've got Shakur versus Floyd Schofield. Lomachenko is the current IBF champion, but there's talk of retirement. What do we think happens? Is Tank going to continue to fight? He's claiming he's going to retire after the Lamont Roach fight. Are we going to see Shakur in a big fight towards the end of the year? What's going to happen?
Shakur Tank, I think that's the fight they're making behind.
If we see that fight
behind closed doors, I think that's what they're doing. I think all this retirement talk is just a smoke screen. I think they're negotiating in the background. I think if they both come through the next fights, I think we'll see that fight announced for either summer or autumn of 2025. I don't think it'll be in Saudi. I think it'll be in the States. I think it'd be a big.
It would deserve to be in the States. To be fair, if you're going to do that, you couldn't do that in Saudi. It'd be stupid.
No, I think they'll do it in Vegas. In Vegas.
It's big. That's huge. Absolutely mega. He's got potential. I'd lean Catterall at the minute, but don't rule Dalton Smith out of that.
You see, I don't see this. I like watching Jack Catterall fight.
I enjoy watching him.
You're a purist, aren't you? To be fair, Jay, you love a good skill boxer. Which Jack
I love watching Jack as well. He's one of my favourites to watch. To be
he's
fair,
not the most exciting fighter in the world.
He's not, no, but I think he's sitting down on his punches. He has been. His last
the
fight
last 4 rounds of the
Prograis.
Prograis fight were quite exciting.
Yeah, it was pouring it on, but yeah, I get.
And the Taylor 2 fight was exciting, actually.
If you're not into watching technical boxing, then yes, I suppose you could say it was boring. But I'd watch two homeless people fight over an old bag of chips. So I never say a fight's boring, but yeah. I think there's just Shakur Tank fights.
Tank Shakur, would love to see it. Keyshawn against either of them. If he beats Baranchik, would love to see it.
Yeah, I think Keyshawn will beat Baranchik fairly easily, and I know that's possibly me being out
they
there.
They fancy it.
Yeah, and I think Keyshawn has yet to show the best of himself, and I think we'll see that as he comes up against better opponents. I think he has shown vulnerabilities, which I also like. He's not unbeatable, but he's a good fighter, man, and I'm excited for we might end up seeing him and Schofield, depending on how Schofield does. There's some interesting fights potentially.
I think he does, Ryan. Yeah, I think Catterall wins.
Catterall beats one of those. Tank Shakur at the top of the division. Sam Noakes against Joe Cordina on a domestic front.
Oh, good fight. Yeah, really
that's where I'm going to go. So 2, I go just because I don't, not just to agree with Jay, but given a domestic fight as well, I think Noakes against Cordina will be a very good scrap.
Yeah, I'd like to see Vong and Gwynn run it back. I know that's not a big fight or anything.
Yeah,
I think they will, mate. I think, Vong said it. Jamie Moore said it in interviews during the Alan Fisher fight week out in Saudi that they look like that's going to be the next move for him. And that's good. They're not trying to now... Look, he's had a bit of a bumper fight. He arguably lost. They're not trying to now brush it under the carpet. They want to see him go back. And that's what you like to see. You have something dubious. They don't run away from it. They run towards it. Let's see what he can do second time round.
Yeah, definitely. There's been interesting developments at 130 over the last week. I've heard, obviously it was not formally announced, but we were told that Anthony Cacace was going to be fighting Sugar Nunes, keeping his IBF belt. But I've read multiple reports over the last little while about Anthony Cacace fighting Lee Wood and expect an announcement on that soon. I don't know if either of you have seen or read those reports.
The first Queensbury card on the zone. Yeah, that's what the rumor is. Their first one over is going to be that. Yeah,
so is he going to vacate? He have to vacate. Sugar can't keep waiting on that IBF title. Sure, it's not right, and I don't think he even will. I'm pretty sure he's on record saying he won't take any more step aside. Lee Wood, it would be good to see him back on a side note. But yeah, what do you make of it all?
Just a quick question. Did Sugar Nunes actually get paid step aside money in the end? Because the IBF was on the line against Cacace and Warrington. Was he still got paid to step aside even though the belt was on the line?
It's a good question, but
I can see that being the little loophole they find for Sugar to wait a bit longer. Well, the belt wasn't actually on the line, so you're going to wait. But yeah, good to see Lee Wood back. I think Lee Wood beats Cacace unless he's completely falling off the shelf while he's been, lying dormant, arguing with Matchroom, arguing with pretty much anyone that wants to have a go at him. Lee, bless him, that's the reality. But I think he's got too much for Cacace. It's just, what's the appeal to that fight without a world title on it? If the IBF belt isn't on it, there's absolutely zero appeal, and it wasn't on the line at Wembley. So that's the loophole. Sugar Nunes will be waiting.
Big money fight for both of them at the end of their careers because they're both mid-30s now. Outside of that, I'd like to see a Shaki Foster against Ray Ford. I think that's a decent fight.
That's a fantastic fight. Yeah, that's a great fight. I favour Foster in that fight.
I'd also like to see
Foster, but it's a good fight.
Great fight.
I'd also like to see Foster fight Navarrete. Both top rank.
Yes.
Foster Navarrete for me is the fight to make in 130. That's a hell of a fight. Both top ranks, no excuse. They can do it. Nice little in-house fight, can't they?
Yeah, there's Varda for Wall and Chisora. Rambler says
should be Varda for all fights, really.
Yeah, there should be. Most definitely. DJ Pat said, not surprised Anto ducked Sugar Nunes will not accept. Yeah, I agree with that. Sugar did get paid.
I agree with you, mate. But if they can find the loophole of the IBF wasn't actually on the line at Wembley, so technically they'll find some sort of loophole. The IBF
Eddie's came out recently and said fair play to Cacace, he's going to take it, and Queensbury. So I don't know. Look, we'll see what happens. We got Dan Evans in the house. Big up, Dan. Hope you're well, my friend. Happy New Year. Can't stay for long, but I want to wish 3 of you a Happy New Year. Fantastic content all year. Man. really good people. I have to see you do well. Thank you very much, Dan Evans.
Thank you,
Massively
mate.
Cheers,
appreciate
Dan.
it.
Appreciate that, brother.
Enjoy
Happy
your
New Year,
evening tonight, mate, and Happy New Year. Top man, Dan. I hope Eubank agrees to fight someone because I think his chin has a. Yeah, Eubank for me is a accident waiting to happen in the next couple of fights without question. His best weapon was his chin. That seems to be. It's a good question, Alex. Mick Conlan. Well, he lost last time out, didn't he? To what's his face?
Jordan Gill.
Jordan Gill. Yeah, good shout.
Can I say something out there? Has Michael Conlan ever had it to lose?
Yeah, it's a fair point. Obviously, unbelievable amateur, unbelievable. Style is way more suited to the amateurs than it is to the pros. He can't punch is the problem, and he's got no
very
punch.
Luke Campbell-esque.
Yeah, and he's got no punch
amateur.
resistance is the other problem. So when you can't punch very hard and you've got a weak chin, it doesn't really stand you in good stead. Look, losing to Lee Wood in the way he did in one Ring Magazine Fight of the Year, it was an amazing fight, really good performance, and he was spent by the last round. Wood took him out. Fantastic performance by Conlan, even with being knocked out really badly. The Luis Alberto Lopez, look, he's a really good fighter. Just lost to Angelo Leo, but he's a very, very good fighter. With the greatest of respect in the world to Jordan Gill, he's a lovely guy. His story is incredible. He's not on the level of what Lee Wood and Luis Alberto.
All respect to Jordan Gill, I'm just going to piss all over him.
Yeah. No, but let's be fair. Zelfa dealt with him last time out. Jordan Gill's not a former world champion. He's a great fighter and a lovely, lovely guy, and his story's immense. But when you're losing to Jordan Gill, like Conlan,
no, if Conlan was as good as we were led to believe he was, he should be beating the likes of Jordan Gill. Jordan Gill is domestic European level. Conlan was lauded as being this elite.
He was 2.5 minutes from being a world champion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very similar to. Do you remember? I say remember. It's fairly recent. Quigley, Jason Quigley.
Yes.
He got the massive Golden Boy turned over from amateurs. He had the massive backing of Oscar, didn't he? And then every time he stepped up, he got beat. And it's the same with Conlan. Every time he stepped up that level, he's just been found wanting. And I don't like fighters taking a long time off and coming back. Retire and just stay retired. It doesn't bode well. He didn't get past the hurdles with momentum behind him. So to be coming from a standing start, the game's evolved as well. I see Michael Conlan getting flatlined by an up-and-coming fighter. That's what I hope not, and I don't wish any badness. Please don't take this as I don't rate him, I don't like him, even though I have literally just pissed all over him. What I mean is, I think he's had his time, and I think he missed his shot when he had his shot. I don't believe that he can do any better than he could have done before now. I think his time's gone.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. We might even see him retire now. They've got the Conlan promotions thing going on that's going well for him.
Yeah,
so it wouldn't surprise me.
He steps away from that, mate. He put out a statement yesterday. Michael's stepping away from. Yeah, he's stepping away from it.
Well, they fell out, have they?
Well, he didn't say that.
Didn't say, did he?
Very diplomatic statement. But what he's basically said is, I'm fighting again and I'm starting my own promotional outfit.
Oh, sorry. He moved to Grant Smith, didn't he? He's with Grant Smith now.
Yeah, but he basically said, I'm leaving, I'm coming back, and I'm splitting from Conlan Promotions. But I think within the statement, he did sort of hint that he was starting his own stable.
Okay.
I'll have to read the statement. I'll find the statement. It was on.
It's on his Instagram.
Yeah. Alex has made a point on that. Yeah, could have one foot out the door, maybe Sonny Edwards-esque in that sense, because he manages Ish and other fighters, doesn't he? Yeah. Any thoughts on this, boys? Pat's asked about the CCTV that we saw.
Listen, well, I can't believe that Sandy never picked up on this before, but why did she not ask Crown Paints for a sponsorship, being the queen of the division? I would have done. No, but somebody said it the other day, taking the piss. They tagged Dulux in it, and I said, well, if anything, it needs to be Crown, which I thought was pretty funny, but she didn't even like it. Cheers, Sandy.
Oh, come on, Sandy.
Do you know what I mean? Come on.
Dog and bone.
But no, I mean, look, you can see that there's the car's waiting for God knows how long with its hazards on. It's obviously set up. Whether directly or indirectly linked to Team Mayer, it is a Mayer fan that's done that, right? No disrespect to Sandy, right? But she wasn't a big enough name for somebody to just randomly think I'm going to do that,
especially
to Sandy
in
Ryan
New York.
in New York. If it had been over here and she'd had beef with somebody else and blah blah, but she's in Mayor's hometown or home state of New York. It wasn't a passing, just madman that did it. This guy is sat in this. I think it's an Escalade that's parked up, a white 4x4. It's parked up outside the hotel, maybe 50 yards down the road. You see her walk out, and then he gets out, runs round, dashes the red paint on her, and dips. Directly or indirectly, Team Mayor are responsible for that. I don't care what anyone says. You could see that Sandy was shook, because that could have been hot acid, boiling water.
Yeah,
it could have been.
You don't know what it is at that point. Yeah.
So you're shook, right? You're shook at that precise moment. It flusters you, right? Whatever she says, and Sandy's too much of a pro to use that as an excuse. But you could see that in stages within that fight, she was in herself. She was overthinking stuff. She was second guessing herself as well. Whereas Sandy's always been very fluid in what she does, and she fights on instinct. She was holding back and not throwing shots when she could have been throwing shots. I'm not saying she would have won the fight, but I would like to see that fight ran back, neutral, somewhere, maybe on a Saudi card somewhere. Maybe they could headline a women's card in Saudi with Dubois and Clarissa Shields or Serrano. Or, I'd like to see a nice big women's card, and that fight, they've got to run it back. I mean, I thought Sandy nicked it for me, but that could be British bias. It was close, right? And because of what happened in the lead up, we've got to see it again. We have to see it again.
Frank Smith was there with Sandy. She got let down by Matchroom, saved the show. Luca's in the house. Big up, Luca. I've been watching the darts, chatting to Luca about that. The darts has been immense. I absolutely love it at this time. I don't know if either of you have been. I know we're.
I'm sorry. No, I'm straight.
Mate, the darts is immense.
Thanks for clarifying that part, mate. How about the darts?
Oh dear.
No, I'm not. I'm not a fan.
Oh,
I've been watching the darts as well, mate.
It looks.
You've been watching it, Liam. It's immense. I've been a few times. It's class. Anyway, 126. Nick Ball is fighting TJ Dehenny. Will we see? Will we see the monster up at 126 this year? Looks like the Nakatani fight's now off the table. We've been hearing, unfortunately. I know that's Super Bantam we're talking about, but
let's get it on then.
Espinosa's another champion at 126, the 6-footer. He's going to be tough to beat for sure. He stopped Robesi Ramirez last time out. Vargas has been off the radar, hasn't he, since his draw to Nick Ball, really. Anything else we want to see? Who's the other champion I've missed at featherweight? Espinosa, Ball, Vargas. Someone in the chat will be able to help me out.
IBF. Is it the IBF? Who's the IBF champ?
WBO is Espinosa. Ball is WBA. WBC is Vargas. So it's the IBF.
Who's the IBF?
IBF we're missing. I can't for the life of me think of who it is. But Nick Ball needs a unification fight if he gets past TJ Dehenny. That's the first go-to. I don't know
Did you say if with a straight face?
Well, yeah, I know that's the have to be diplomatic sometimes.
We do. If he beats TJ Dehenny, I'd like to see him in a unification. I think he deserves it now. I mean, he's fought a who's who recently in terms of champions. He got a shit decision or the shit end of a decision. Previously, should have 2 belts anyway. I'd like to see him fight another one of the champions.
Luca not happy with the darts comment. Who's the IBF featherweight champ? Liam, did we find out?
I'm trying to find out now.
Oh, of course, it's Angelo Leo. He knocked out Luis Alberto Lopez. One of the knockouts of the year. Angelo Leo against Nick Ball would be amazing. Yeah, Espinosa's WBO, Alex. Yeah. Angelo Leo's in that mix now too. I'd like to see Ball right the wrong.
Right the wrong. Vargas. That's what I nearly said. That.
Get the right decision.
Right the decision. Wrong against Vargas.
I think he stops him if he fights him again. I think he held something back to try and get through the 12 rounds at that level. I think he'll jump on him this time and because Vargas did look vulnerable at times in that fight, and I know he caught Ball as well, but I just think the power lies with Ball. He's got a decent chin as well. The only problem for me is I think Ball thinks of his chin too much myself. I think he takes too many shots sometimes, leaves himself a little bit open, banking on his...
I think he might lose soon, Nick Ball, and I hate to say it because he's one of my favourite fighters. Yeah, I just think
many.
I think he's gonna. Yeah, I think he's not. His style's not conducive to a long career, is it? Put it that way. No. He's amazing to watch. So whenever we watch him, we're like, mate, this is outrageous. His output,
do you know it?
His volume is...
You might not. I mean, you'll remember him, but you might not remember him in his pomp. John Murray.
Oh yeah.
He was very similar, just marauding coming forward.
Yeah. Then unfortunately, John Murray went downhill quite quickly, didn't he? With Mitchell and Brandon Rios.
They threw him in with Brandon Rios, didn't they? Which they should never have done that. Joe Gallagher should never have let him take that fight. And John's never been the same since. But he had a style that wasn't conducive with long term.
Yeah.
He took a lot of shots because he could. And I think Nick Ball doesn't take as many, but takes too many for me because I think he banks on his chin being solid. And like you said, he comes up against somebody that's just a bit quicker than him. He'll either get outpointed or he'll get stopped.
Yeah, I just want to see the Inoue fight. I think Inoue wins it.
Think he's got a chance? Think he's got a shot?
I don't. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think he beats Inoue. But it won't go the distance for the amount of time those two are sharing a ring. Because Ball's not. It's not like Ball's going to change his style for Inoue. He has to go and try and beat him. You can't change who you are.
And Inoue's shown vulnerabilities as well.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if Ball is that big a puncher. I think he's more like a wear you out kind. He's not like a one punch knockout man. He has got power definitely, but he puts everything into all his shots. Ball, doesn't he? Like he doesn't hold back at all. But I just think it'd be carnage. I would expect Inoue to win it, but Nick Ball would just meet him head on in the middle of the ring. They'd sit on each other's chest and they'd just have it out, and it'd just be unbelievable to watch.
Okay.
Might be something for another show. Declan Warrington's most recent tweet is well worth reading. I'll have a look at that afterwards then, Alex.
Sorry, I'm who's Declan Warrington?
Boxing news, ex-boxing news journalist. I think he's freelance now. But
is it appropriate for the show, Liam?
Pardon?
Is it appropriate for the show?
Yeah, it's nothing you can't... Nothing that you couldn't read out here, mate. He's just being honest about his year in boxing.
You have me, lads.
I'm intrigued.
I'm a co-host of the show, so anything that comes out of my mouth is not usually appropriate for the show. So yeah,
mate. When we lose your sound sometimes, that's just the filter. It's not, it's not your Wi-Fi.
I'm intrigued.
It's appropriate to read out, mate. Yeah.
What's he said then? Cause I don't even know the kid. So.
You want it, Sam?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, here we go. Let me just find him.
MJ Inoue on top rank card on DAZN. Sign me up. Jai Opetaia David deserves that fight.
He more than deserves that fight.
Yeah.
Here we go. This year I've been threatened by the relative of one major promoter, aggressively threatened by the relative of another major promoter, sat in the gods for writing that fighter who should have been in the ring shouldn't have been in the ring, shouldn't have been in the ring. Dismissed an armchair psychologist, denied access to the biggest fight of the year in the UK. So he was denied his press pass for the Dubois AJ Wembley fight. Denied access without explanation to a particularly high-profile fighter. Warned by well-intended people I've barely known not to travel to Saudi Arabia. So for context for both of you, he has been on a vendetta against this sports washing of Saudi Arabia. He was banned from his press credentials were removed on fight week from the Wembley card. So I heard that. And if you've not read the article he wrote on his views of Wembley, and bearing in mind I was at Wembley that night as well. Yet look, he's got a very set agenda, and although I can agree with some of the things he said about Wembley, his agenda's that much in his head that nothing's going to see past it. So look, he's probably one of the most, I say, high-profile. In terms of boxing journalists, he's probably the most high-profile that Saudi have banned so far. And I think others have banned him as well. I'm pretty sure he wasn't allowed at a couple of Matchroom and Queensbury shows towards the end of the year as well. So he's pissed off anyone and everyone.
If you're going on at Saudi, Matchroom and Queensbury are the ones who are working closest with Saudi. So, that they're all one.
Yeah, I think he was meant to be at the 5v5 for Bentley and Pauls and wasn't allowed at that either. So he's definitely done some...
Yeah, look, I'm not going to get involved with that. Whatever he's said or done is that's his agenda.
But he's taken the sports washing agenda, mate, to a level now you can't even recognise.
He's probably is what it is. Quick one, small question: do you want to see Croke Park Cave Serrano? I'd rather see, for me personally, Cameron. I think Cameron. I think we've seen Taylor Serrano. I know we've seen them both twice, but yeah, I think I'd rather see Cameron, to be honest with you. She's lost the Cameron fight and she's won both Serrano fights, so that's personally why I'd want to see it. But
yeah, I think for me, I've got more of an interest in the Cameron matchup. I don't know whether is it British bias, but
possibly said, from all of us. But
as you said, it's one each. I know some people could say that the Serrano fights it's one each, but it's not.
It's not.
The records. It's 2-0. So a third one for me does nothing. I'll watch it because they're two of the best there is. But I think the Chantel Cameron one, I don't want to see Katie fight again. If I'm honest, I'd like to see her retire.
Yeah, no, she could have run off into the sunset. Definitely.
I don't think she will. I think she wants the homecoming, doesn't she?
Just the lure.
I think Cameron will beat. I think Cameron will beat her again. I think Cameron will beat her if they box again.
Yeah. Right then, boys. Before we wrap up, Super Bantam and Super Fly, we'll leave it there after that. I think a new AMJ's Pat's probably answered my call.
I prefer that. I prefer that to any other fight for Inoue. Even the Nakatani fight, I prefer the MJ fight.
MJ was off against Marlon Tapales. There's no doubt about it. I know he's come out and said he was ill, which you never really like to hear from fighters, but I genuinely believe he wasn't himself that night.
Yeah.
And he only lost a close points decision. I genuinely think MJ is the one at 122 that I'm not going to go out there and say that he beats Inoue, but I definitely think that he's going to ask Inoue questions, and I'm not sure Inoue stops him, even if he does beat him. So I just think it's
I think go points that fight. I think the winner of that wins it on points, but I think that is I'd go 60-40 in Inoue's favour, but I believe this will be one of his closest, toughest matchups if the MJ fight's made.
Agree. The fight I want to see most for Inoue, it's one of his toughest matchups, but it's a well-matched fight as well because they've both got different skill sets. So it's how does one counteract the other? Who's going to have more success? I'd still side with Inoue and agree. I think it will be a points. He may get a knockdown, but I don't see him getting a stoppage.
Yeah, you've got a down at Bantam, obviously Nakatani. I think Nakatani's IBF. Potentially the WBA changed hands. It was Inoue's brother who had it, but he lost to Satsumi. I think it was, Jay. I think we did the watch.
We did the watch along, yeah.
Probably see unification going on down at Bantam for that one. I'd like to see Jesse Rodriguez getting that 118 mix fairly soon, but Puma Martinez fell off the Ayoka fight that was meant to happen a few hours ago. I'd like to see Martinez and Bam fight. I think that's the fight to make at Superfly. I think that's a unification, isn't it? At Superfly, I think that's probably the best fight in that division. I think Bam wants to unify now rather than just keep on moving up. You have to remember that Bam was down at fought Sonny at flyweight, wasn't it, in the end? So he's moving. He's doing an Inoue, isn't he? He's basically emulating what Inoue did. You know, there's fantasy talk about that fight happening. I just don't think that their careers are on the path to meet. If you get,
I think he's just following him. So I think he's always going to be sort of behind, and I don't mean that as in behind in skill set or what he's done. I just believe that just the paths aren't going to cross. He's always going to be a division behind. I don't think we'll ever see that fight. I think the fight we might see, Rodriguez, is Galal Yafai.
Yeah, well, Galal's a good point.
Maybe not next, but I think if Rodriguez carries on and Galal, because didn't he win the interim WBC?
Yeah, he's interim champion.
Who's the WBC champion?
I don't know. Is it Bam?
I thought it was WBA.
No, the WBA is held by Martinez. That was meant to be on the line, and then the IBF's vacant because Martinez had the.
It's WBC then.
He had the IBF, so he's either WBC or WBO champion. Is
Statman Liam?
Yeah, no, Rodriguez. Yeah, Cafu's WBO. Is Cafu not fighting Chocolatito? Is he not fighting Chocolatito? I read the other day.
I'm pretty sure that's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yes. So he's, you know, Bam is the WBC, IBF's vacant. Yeah. So look, you know, does Galal beat Bam? Probably not. You know, should they be looking to make that next? I don't know. Galal needs to be fast tracked anyway. He's over 30 years old as a super flyweight.
Time's not on his side. And I think his amateur pedigree. Well, he's an example of what I said earlier on when we were talking about Hooney and Atoma. We're not going to see Galal have another 10 fights against, you know, domestic level. He's beat Sonny Edwards, who, let's be right, the Curiel fight, everybody said, oh, he's back, you know, he's this, he's that, this is that. Galal made it look easy. I know Sonny was half out the door and said he didn't want to be there, but he took the fight. Ultimately, he took the fight, and he must have thought he could win the fight to take the fight. I don't think he took the fight knowing he'd lose. So, yeah, I think Galal's going to be a prime example of it. I don't think it'll be the Bam fight next, but I think within 2 or 3 fights, we will see him fight for the full version of the
Do they wait Bam
world
out, see if he moves up in the next
possibly
6 to 12 months?
That's the smartest thing to do, isn't it? That's the smart way to play it. Wait,
that's
Bam
an
out.
option, yeah. Edwards Kane, that's a good fight. Kane stops him for me.
Kane will smash him to bits. Charlie Edwards is, he's not as good as Sonny. He's painful to listen to. He's not that great to watch. He doesn't hold a shot very well, and he talks a great fight. I mean, if he could fight as good as he could chat shit, wow, he'd be.
Yeah, Andrew Kane's a monster as well.
Andrew Kane
very hard, man.
I think it'll be close for the first 2 or 3 rounds. I think 4 or 5 rounds in, Kane will get him out of there in under 6 rounds for me.
Yeah, I think so. Non-Singer's a good fight for Galal, to be fair, but didn't he lose again recently, Luke? I'm sure he lost in Japan or something. I remember seeing it. Obviously, he got the Curiel fight back, didn't he? And then that was like in Monaco, wasn't it? The first one, Curiel just flatlined him. But he won the rematch in Mexico, and then I'm sure he lost again recently. Galal get outboxed by Bam, probably KO'd yet. I would probably say so myself as well. Bam's just, he looks incredible, doesn't he? But yeah, I think we'll potentially leave it there, boys, for today, unless you've got anything else to add about anything.
Not really, no.
I think Charlie Edwards beats Andrew Kane. That's the only thing I'll say.
Yeah, look,
God.
Kane,
won
he lost one fight, didn't he? Kane, I'm sure he did.
I think
that's right.
There, wasn't he? Number 1, holding it. Didn't you have a banner? Charlie, can I have your T-shirt?
No, I had the Paul Butler T-shirt, mate. I was holding the Paul Butler T-shirt.
But no, I mean,
obviously not.
Charlie Edwards. It flatters to deceive for me. You know, I think he peaked when he won the title and then lost the title, didn't he? I think he's trying to recoup those days, but I think age and that's against him. I just don't think he's as good as he thinks he still is. Yeah, so I mean, it's a pick 'em, is it? But I just think Kane's too big, too strong for him.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah, Cameron Ryan, sign me up for that one, Rambler. That's a really good fight, 147. And Beluta, that was it, who beat Andrew Kane. Luca, yeah, you're right. It was Beluta.
But Beluta, I mean, he gave McCann fits and farts, didn't he?
I did in the first one, yeah.
You know, Beluta can be a tough night for anybody. You know, but Kane's come on and had a fair few wins since then, I believe. You know,
4 on the spin.
Yeah, he won the British and Commonwealth, didn't he? Against
let's be honest, Charlie Edwards did not set the world alight when he beat Asomba, did he? He won that fight, you know, but it was a tough watch.
Turgid is what I
performance
was.
Yeah, remember it well. Yeah, we'll be back on. We'll do the Australia card on Friday. We'll do the prediction shows for that, and then Monday we'll do the prediction shows for the boxer card. Tuesday, no punches pulled. Wednesday, Jai Opetaia versus David Nyika live watch along. We'll be there for that. DJ Pat, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, brother.
January, we're back once again down under live on DAZN. Bowing out for the new year. Take care, Pat. Thanks for all the support, mate.
See you soon, man.
Cameron Bright, yeah, love that. That's a really good one from Rambley. Yes, yeah. Big up. Thanks to everyone who's tuning in. Alex said it's nearing New Year in Australia, so he's down. Thank you very much.
Have a good one, brother.
yeah, we'll campaign for that going forward. The UK v Australia 5v5. Love that. Mayor or leave it. Pat says, yeah, thanks to Pat, Luca, Rambler, Alex. Dan Evans stopped by. Big up, obviously, as always, Mr. Dan Evans. Jabbit was here. Ryan Hong. Grant Gill was there. Choi B. And as always, Liam Tully, Jay's Fight Talk, the main men. Thank you, as always, for your time and effort, boys. 20 episodes of No Punches Pulled since August. Believe it or not, we actually haven't taken a week off it. Possibly next week. No, we'll do the boxer card next week, obviously. Don't know what you boys have planned for this evening, but whatever it is, go and eat lots of food, lots of beer if that's your thing, and see out the new year in style.
Have a good one, boys. We'll see you next year.
Yeah, we'll see you on Friday for the prediction shows, first ones of 2025. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks for all the support and tuning in, and we'll see you in 2025.
See ya.